Welcome back. In this video, we will dive even deeper into programming, and specifically we will talk about using what's called variables to store data in order to access it later in the program. Just like functions that we talked about in the previous video, variables in programming are somewhat similar to variables in math. In math, variables are used to represent numbers which do not have to have specific values and might change or vary, hence the name variable. Variables in programming are also used to represent values and might change over time. However, unlike math, in programming, variables are used to represent computer data in general, not just numbers, meaning variables can be used to store text in addition to other data types that we haven't even covered in this video series yet. So what is a variable in programming? The best analogy I can come up with is a food container. Food containers are used to store food, variables are used to store data. This analogy, however, doesn't fully apply to the C programming language, as well as some other languages. While we can use a food container to store any food and even something other than food, variables in C have a predefined data type, and they can only store data of that type, meaning you can't store text in a variable that only stores numbers. Let me show you an example. To introduce a variable in a C program, we need to specify the data type of the variable and the name of the variable. In this video, we will only use variables of the type int that is used to store integer numbers, numbers that do not have a fractional part, numbers that we use to count things like 1, 2, or 3. 1.5, for example, is not an integer number because it has a fractional part, 0.5. What you see on the screen now is called variable declaration. Some of you might have noticed the semicolon in the Hello World program that we used in the previous video. This semicolon is used to separate instructions. In our case, variable declaration is a single instruction and it must be separated from other instructions. Not all programming languages use a semicolon to separate instructions, also known as expressions, but the C language does. Now let's get to actual programming. We're going to create a new C program in Replit and delete the Hello World part. Before we move on, let me briefly introduce another code writing rule in addition to the semicolon rule. In C, the code you write must go inside curly brackets, but before the return statement. Now let's declare a variable of the type int and name it a. As it is, this variable isn't very useful. It doesn't do anything, only takes up space in computer memory. But what can we actually do with variables? Well, in addition to declaration, we can assign values to variables using the assignment operator. This line of code assigns 5 to the variable a, meaning from now on, the variable a stores number 5. If we assign this variable another value, say 10, it will discard 5 and store 10 instead. What else can we do with variables? We can output or print their values. Let's print the value of the variable a. To do this, we're going to use the function that I believe has already become very familiar, printf. If I do it like this, Replit will throw an error. Some of you might remember this error from the previous video. Does anybody remember why this happens and how to fix it though? It happens because the variable a stores a number, and to print numbers using the printf function, we need to specifically tell the computer that what we want to print is a number by adding an additional parameter. Now it prints 10. Know that if you want to print the value of the variable a, it must not be enclosed in quotation marks. If we enclose it in quotation marks, and the program will treat it as text and print a. Now, when assigning a value to a variable, you can also use the value of another variable. Let's declare another variable and name it b. Now, we're going to assign the variable b the value of a. So now b has the same value as a, which is 10. In addition, you can assign variables the result of an operation. Because both a and b are numbers, we can do calculations using these two variables. Let's declare a third variable c and assign it the sum of a and b. Now, if we print the value of the variable c, we will see that it is in fact the sum of a and b, which is 20. Instead of addition, we can also do subtraction, which will result in 0, multiplication, which will result in 100, division, which will result in 1, and there is also a fifth arithmetic operation in programming, which we will cover in another video. Now let's summarize what we learned in this video. In programming, we can use variables to store data. In the C language, variables have a specific data type and can only store data of that type. To be able to use a variable, we need to first declare it by specifying its data type and name that we will use to access the value of the variable. In this video, we used variables of the type int that can only store integer numbers, numbers without a fractional part. To store a number in an int variable, we need to assign the number to the variable using the assignment operator. In addition to numbers, we can assign values of other variables and results of operations to variables. And since the int type stores numbers, we can also do math with variables of the type int. Finally, we can output or print the value stored in a variable. This is it for this video. In the next one, we will talk about variables that can store text. Thank you for watching, and see you around.